All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hotfix Podcast episode number 13. Wow, how crazy. This is supposed to be the cursed episode if you're superstitious. Ladies and gentlemen, please take off your tinfoil hats. Don't curse us with anything. Something may look a little bit different for you guys today. We are interviewing my good friend, BowTieAntics. BowTieAntics, please say hello.
How you doing?
All right. Guys, as you know, episodes come up live every Monday. If you guys do enjoy those, make sure to stop back every Monday. Check out new episodes. We're going to get this going right now. Episode number 13. Please enjoy.
Welcome to Hotfix, the weekly podcast that dives into the fascinating world of streaming, gaming, and esports. With your hosts, Brant Vladichuk and Jeremy Kelly.
BowTieAntics, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really, really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
We, when we first started doing the podcast, we kind of threw around the idea of doing interviews with other people. And then Brant had a whole list and host of people that he threw into his list, for people that we want to interview. And I had one person on mine, and it was you. So, like...
I'm flattered. Thank you.
We had that's right. The shortest of lists, that's for sure. So we had interviewed one other person. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't checked that out, it's in one of the early episodes, 4 or 5, I believe.
One of those,
something like that, where we interview a musician and how streaming has helped his music career during the whole pandemic stuff. So our friend BowTieAntics here is a streamer that we've been friends for a couple years now, which is weird. I first met BowTie through the PUBG scene, and we'll get into that for sure. But I had the absolute pleasure of watching his channel grow to something that was quite impressive, and it's the reason that I wanted to have you in here to kind of have a conversation. Can you kind of just tell us when you started streaming, why, how you got interested, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I started streaming first in I saw somebody streaming EVE Online a long time ago. I used to play EVE Online. Mm-hmm. So I it was a career at one point. And then I was watching somebody stream it, and I'm like, I could do that. So, you go out and you buy what you think you need, and you get home and you have half of what you need, and then you go back and try to find out the rest anyways. But that was early 2017, and I had no clue what I was doing. I remember a whole stream at one point I was talking and my microphone wasn't even working. So
that's a great realization.
Well, yeah. But I got way more into it. I figured some things out, worked some problems out. And then I would say by the end of 2017, I was streaming pretty regularly without an actual set schedule, and just kind of went from there.
That's amazing. You talked about the audio and video and that kind of stuff there real quick about having the stuff you needed, and then you kind of figured some stuff out along the way. Anyone that's been into your channel before, you hear a lot of people comment that your production quality is in the upper echelon of what most streamers have. What do you think attributes to your ability to do that? Like, is that something that you had an interest in prior to streaming, or it's like something that you knew prior to streaming that just happened to help, or is it something that you just wanted to have as good as possible, so you learned how to do it?
So I guess one thing that I had going for me that helped out quite a bit was I've been in IT. I've been in technology all my life. I mean, I was 12 years old taking apart my parents' first computer. The old 40. I'm not even going to say those numbers because I'm going to sound like a big dork. But I always liked technology, so computers were always my thing. And video games, playing Doom when it first came out, and the early access, what it would be called now, was actually just a free preview of it on a little floppy disk.
Right.
Started playing games way back then, but um, starting out streaming, it was like, oh, I get to put all of these cool things that I know some of together and put together a show. Sounds interesting. Turning on the camera was frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to have your face out there where people can see it, ask you questions, and you either have to answer or run away. One of those. But I technology had that background. I had no background whatsoever in doing any kind of video editing, graphic design. I did none of that. I could build PCs with my eyes closed, but you want to talk to me about video editing or ask me what an encoder is or any of that kind of stuff at that point in time, no clue.
So you learned all of that just out of a passion for streaming and wanting your channel to be better? Like, was that kind of the hope?
Yeah. And you know what? One of the things that I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm different or weird or whatever, both. But I wanted to learn the stuff because I just wanted to do it better. Not necessarily because I wanted more viewers. There wasn't ever a time where I was like, ooh, if I get a better camera, I'm going to get more viewers.
No, right? Yeah.
More about, I want to see if I can do this. Can I set up 4 webcams and put it all on one stream? Can I, buy some fancy, fandangled arm and put it on the back of a desk and set up a weird camera angle?
Right.
Just experimenting.
Right.
So that's kind of why I did that.
So it was a curiosity more than anything, and just like a challenge to yourself kind of thing, I suppose, right?
My life story.
You mentioned, you kind of mentioned that turning on that camera the first time or the first couple of times even is very, very difficult. And we had spoken about that on a previous episode. I know like Brant has gone into some detail as far as how difficult it is to just to hit that start streaming button the very first time. Do you want to talk about maybe a little like kind of what you did to get over that? I don't know. I don't want to call it anxiety or nervousness or whatever, but just that maybe that fear of turning on that button. Like, how long did it take you before you were comfortable as a streamer?
For me, it wasn't necessarily the hard part. Wasn't turning the camera on. It was turning myself on to the camera after it was on. It was not sitting there like a zombie frozen in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, am I doing this right? Can you hear me? It was that weird feeling. And there was definitely some anxiety involved with that, because who are the people that are going to come in your channel and start talking to you? When I first, I guess 2017, I can't remember when it switched from Justin TV to Twitch TV, but it was very new to me. I'd never done it before. Saw somebody else doing it. I'm like, I can try that. So there was a lot of anxiety. It was a weird feeling. Weird feeling.
It's definitely a strange thing, and I don't know if there is a solid answer, because obviously everyone is so different for how long it would take to get comfortable. Obviously, it depends on how comfortable you are with talking to other people and having a camera on, right? But there is something to be said as well, like you said, about kind of turning yourself on as well, because the camera is the start streaming button. It's the, am I ready? Is my posture right? Is my camera in the right place? Can I put on the smile? You know what I mean? It's a showtime. It's that whole thing, right? It's a weird thing that I feel. I don't know if anyone will ever actually figure out the remedy to it, but it's a long fought battle for so many people. That's for damn sure.
I think the remedy to it is just, if you want to do it, just to do it. There's corporate entities with certain logos out there about that kind of thing, but honestly, just turn the camera on and do what you've been doing, but you just have a camera on. Play your games, and have the same fun that you're having playing games. Just, there's other people there watching. I mean, that's really what comes down to. Once you realize that, you kind of get past a lot of it.
For sure. No, absolutely. You mentioned you didn't make your video and audio better because, hey, this might garner me some extra viewers. But that being said, do you think having higher quality video and audio did help yourself keep a couple extra viewers?
after, yes, after doing that for a while, and then myself experiencing, I mean, if you've never been on Twitch and you've never gone and watched somebody's video and listened to what they're saying, how they're saying, what it sounds like, how the game sounds, a lot of the part of watching something, just watching a movie, if the audio is terrible, like, I hate to reference this movie because some people like it, some people don't, but like the Blair Witch Project.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that movie, but man, it was hard.
Right.
You felt like you're getting motion sickness the whole time, right? The audio was great though. So it's you gotta. I think for people that really want to stream and really want to get into it, you do need to focus on your audio quality and video quality, especially today. There's people that are just starting streaming and they go out and buy a DSLR camera these days, and it's crazy because it costs a lot of money to do that. And if you're not serious about doing it, you're throwing money away.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about how like you just got kind of fortunate as far as that goes, right?
Yeah, I kind of did I bought all the expensive stuff before I started, like the good camera. Oh, I kind of already had the.
Well, that's what I mean.
I had like the camera already. I just bought the Cam Link, which is still a couple $100.
Yeah.
Still twice as much as a regular webcam.
Yeah, so Brand's a photographer, so he just like happened to already have the really good camera, which is like how fortunate for me. But you're right, the Cam Link ain't cheap either.
Yeah, could have bought any other webcam for half the price.
Absolutely.
But
it's very, very true. So just before we leave the, just kind of starting streaming, if you had the ability to speak to every new streamer, what do you have one thing you would tell them as like a tip before they get going? Like something that's just kind of like, remember this.
Focus on, this is probably the most important thing that I've learned. Focus on balance. If you're going to try to get serious about streaming, or if you like it so much that you think that you could turn it into something that's long term and you're going to evolve it and do all that kind of stuff with it, fantastic. Do it. Pursue your passion, but don't put everything else in your life aside to do it, because I'll tell you what made you passionate about streaming and playing video games and doing all that stuff is all that stuff that some people end up putting on the side. It's your family, it's your friends, it's the things that you've experienced in life or what makes a streamer the character that they are on screen. And if you forget all that and just focus on this, you forget about who you are.
Fantastic. I think we've harped the idea of, we've been pretty big fans of the idea of less is more, in a way that you're better off having 3 high quality streams a week than 7 ho-hum streams a week. And, people get excited early on when they start streaming and they're like, this is what I'm going to do. Then they get that first new viewer and they're like, hell yeah, new people are coming in, and they come back a second time.
Yeah.
And that was on Monday and Tuesday. I can't not stream Wednesday. And they kind of fall into that trap. And, they think, they're just enjoying it so much, but then that burnout can come fast and very, very furious. And when it does, it's a very, very difficult thing to get rid of. Very difficult. Especially when if you're used to streaming 5 or 6 days a week, and then you miss a day one week and you feel like you're letting your whole stream down. You know what I mean? Then that starts that plants a seed in the back of your head. We've been just big. I keep saying wanting to say components, but that's not even the word.
Proponent?
Proponents? Yeah, big proponents.
Is that the
I think
word?
that's the word.
Yeah, proponents.
Yeah,
Proponents of proponents.
Components of proponents. That's right, exactly.
Start making up words.
That's right. Yeah, big proponents of just do less than you think you want to do. And if you happen to throw in a bonus stream on a random day of the week, then fine. But I think the less streams, the less is more is the proper approach. I strongly feel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything that you want to ask as far as the new streaming, just getting going, that kind of stuff?
No.
No,
I think,
you're good?
I think we covered
Okay.
pretty much everything there.
So the turn for your channel, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe obviously like you lived it. I was just an observer. The big turning point for your channel seemed to be when you left the game that you were mainly streaming, which was PUBG, correct? And then started playing a game that was less popular called Ring of Elysium.
Very correct. Yes.
can you kind of just talk a little bit about maybe let's start from the beginning of just like before you switched. So you were playing PUBG. This is how I met you. You were playing semi-competitively. Is that fair to say? Like you were competing in tournaments there was, I think you and I played in a tournament together that had like Cloud9 and Ghost Gaming and these kind of people in it, right? Like there was.
Yeah, was it the Twitch Rivals tournament we played in?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like there were like we had played in tournaments that were like that had like you were playing in PUBG tournaments that did have prize pools and there was legitimate players playing and you were taking it very seriously at a certain point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very seriously.
So, and we can talk about that just a little bit later, but first I want to get into what made you want to switch and why did you choose Ring of Elysium?
Switching from PUBG to ROE was it wasn't hard. It all came down to me having fun with what I was doing. Again, going back to that whole thing. When I started feeling like I wasn't having fun on stream and I was just streaming PUBG because that's what people were watching and had been watching, and that's what I was, in quote, expected to play. I realized I wasn't having fun. Had to switch it up because, again, I can't sit and do something, and this is me my entire life. I can't sit and do something that I don't enjoy. Certain life things, cleaning, cooking, doing laundry, that kind of stuff, of course you have to do. But,
right.
When you're doing something that you look at as your fun time and having a good time with your friends and you stop having fun doing it, you have to change something up.
Right. So then how did you find Ring of Elysium?
Searching. I had a couple friends that I had been, some other friends that are streamers. I don't know if you know Nano Decade, but a fantastic individual. I love the guy. I met him. He was one of the first people I met when I first started streaming. I came in his channel and just started pestering him, asking him weird questions to see how he would react. And he was very friendly, invited me to play some games. But he came across this game called Ring of Elysium. I'd never heard of it. And he literally just dropped it in my ear one night when we were playing some games. We were on Discord, and I decided one weekend, I wasn't streaming at the time. I said, I'm gonna download this and try it out and see what it's like. And I was like, this is fun. I was like, it's different. It's kind of the same format, but it's different. It's different enough that I think I can have fun with it. And I also, at that point, I was starting to look at, I'm spending X amount of hours doing this every week. I need to start doing something to, if I'm going to make something of it, I need to do that, or I need to cut back on the amount of time that I'm streaming, and put forward some effort in some other places in my life. And I was having a lot of fun streaming, so I decided to go the route of, well, let's put forward the effort. So I started analyzing things. I'm a very analytic person, probably why I like computers, putting numbers together. Started spreadsheeting a lot of things and crunching numbers for things, and looking at how many viewers are watching this game. You start doing that after you start streaming for a while. You start looking at the viewership of games and how many people are watching them and who has the most viewers, that kind of stuff. And I saw at Ring of Elysium, it didn't have a lot of viewers, period. But I was having fun playing, and I said, let's give it a shot. And so I started streaming it, rotating back and forth between PUBG and Ring of Elysium.
Right. And then I guess, as like you were saying, that if the goal was to have fun, you were just having more fun playing Ring of Elysium. And if people were still watching you play Ring of Elysium when you left PUBG, it's like, well, what's the difference? I'm not trying to appease anybody anymore. Those people are still watching me anyway, so I might as well play the game that I'm having fun with, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to lose a few people that were watching me that weren't really interactive. They were there a lot of times, but they weren't talkative. But they came there to watch PUBG, and that's cool. And I switched to Ring of Elysium, and I didn't see some of their faces anymore. But I was having fun, and that was the ultimate thing, is I was still having fun doing what I was doing. And viewership from the day of going from PUBG to Ring of Elysium and pretty much switching over full time, it was better on Ring of Elysium for some weird reason. I didn't know what it was at the time, figured it out later. But it was better, and I was enjoying the interaction with the people that were watching and having fun playing a new game.
What was it that you figured out later that was keeping viewership the same or better on Ring of Elysium? What do you think was that? What do you think it was?
Viewer to streamer ratio.
Hey. Sounds like we had an episode on
call
that.
back to last episode.
Our last episode, we did a full conversation on using statistics to maybe choose what games you want to play if you're looking to switch something up. And on that topic of switching something up, like you said, there's a weird fear that comes along as a streamer, isn't there? If you main one game and you want to start playing something different, like even if you only have 6 viewers, and if you switch over and you get 3, you're like, like it's like this weird pressure to go back to what you were playing, because again, if you're trying to grow your channel, that hits you in the face as seeming like going in the wrong direction, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like if you hang out with a group of people that you've been playing billiards pool with for years, and you walk in and you're like, hey, let's play darts. They'll look at you funny. It's that
Right.
feeling, right?
It's a very good analogy. Yeah, it's very true. So when you switched to ROE, how long were you playing ROE before you started seeing noticeable growth? Or was there a point where you're like, we're definitely like this month we're definitely up an average of 2 viewers or whatever it may be? Like, how quick did that happen?
Don't hold me to this number. I'm going off of memory, looking
that's
at
fine.
the analytics sheets and stuff that I looked at that point. But I want to say that over a period of about 2 months, from going from PUBG to Ring of Elysium, I saw a constant uptick in viewers every single stream. I started, instead of getting a random somebody following me every couple streams or whatever, I started getting 2 and 3 followers a stream, and that started snowballing because you retain a certain amount of people that follow you. They'll come back and view your channel, and after a while the percentage gain, just the rule of large numbers kicks in, and that small percentage of people that do come back kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger the more followers I got. And before I knew it, for quite a while I was sitting and I was the top, however you want to look at it, I was the top Ring of Elysium streamer in the channel on most nights that I streamed. And there was a tactic to it, though.
There was a tactic to it. Are you allowed to talk about that tactic?
Well, I mean, it's again, you get to a certain point, you start looking at what times other streamers are streaming.
Mm-hmm.
What times are big name streamers streaming PUBG? Do you want to go stream PUBG if you're a streamer with an average of 1,000 viewers, and that you can go in there at a certain time of day and maintain that average? Do you stream then, or do you stream on the days where giant streamers and tournaments are happening in that game and your average viewership goes down? You're a content creator, so obviously you want people there to talk to and see your brand or what have you, however you're doing your thing. But there's definitely you have to time how you stream and when you're streaming, what you're streaming.
Yeah, when you're in a category of a game that doesn't have thousands of people streaming it, especially thousands of people with hundreds of viewers streaming it, it makes, like, that strategy just makes a lot of sense, because, like, I mean, if you want to talk that same strategy to Fortnite, that's near impossible, right? Yeah. You can't, you just wouldn't stream because there's never a time there's just not gigantic streamers on. But with something like ROE or any other game that's not, in that top 5 to 10 games on Twitch, there's probably some strategy that can be applied there to kind of pick and choose when you stream to kind of give yourself the best shot at attaining new viewers, right?
One of the things that I do is time my stream to be going when a bigger stream ends. So look when the bigger streamers are streaming, know when they end, and start an hour before they end. So when they end, and then all the people wanting to watch that game go down the list, you're hopefully there, and you can catch all the people leaving the big channels.
That's right. And if you're
you can do that right, and you can do it very wrong though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's very true. Very, very true. Mm-hmm. There's something about, like you said, if you're, sometimes you get these weird games where the biggest person on the channel has 5,000 viewers, but then number 2 has 30 viewers, right? It's like one of those, that's definitely one of those situations where when that person ends, you could end up with a trickle down effect of people kind of jumping around and hopping all over the place, right? No, it's a good thing. That's a very, very good strategy when it comes to something with a low amount of people streaming the game, and that is definitely where analytics and stats and actually really digging into that kind of stuff comes into play. It's a very, very smart move for sure. Do you remember when that growth was going so consistently that something in your mindset had changed, or did something in your mindset ever change? Like as to how seriously you're going to take it, or because I know you started like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong with some of these facts, that like you kind of really got into doing community tournaments and you were kind of you were in conversation with some of the bigger members of the community and people who were kind of really trying to build Ring of Elysium up, because to my knowledge the devs weren't super involved in anything like that. So you kind of got like really into the weeds with Ring of Elysium. So did something in your mindset switch because viewership had been changing for you to want to do that, or did that just happen naturally?
Are you asking because the viewership was going up at that point?
Yeah. So if was there a point in time where the viewership was going up, or just the streams were going so well that you decided to dive further into everything that is Ring of Elysium, or was that just a natural thing that happened?
There were a few things that kind of pushed me that direction. The biggest thing, to be honest, was the community. When you're in a community of players like PUBG, there's so many people. I mean, if you just play with random people, you're gonna get people you've never played with before, because there's just millions of people playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
A game as small as Ring of Elysium that has a setup to where you can play with random people, I kid you not, I could queue in by myself in a 4-man squad and just let it fill it and I would end up playing with people I knew constantly.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
That's just the nature of it. Mm-hmm. But it was the community. They were for a long time. The people that played that game that I met, the people that came in the channel, the other streamers, everybody was very welcoming. They wanted to hang out. They wanted to play games, and it was fun. So it brought another level of fun on top of the fact that I was having fun playing the game too. So at that point, I started getting real serious about playing Ring of Elysium, and I'm a very competitive person by nature. So obviously I started, anything that came up as far as, little, tournaments or things that people were wanting to put together or make the game a little bit more serious. I wanted to do that. I had fun with it.
Can you talk about some of the things that the community did try to do to make it more competitive and more serious? Like, what are some of the things that you guys did? Yeah.
So, everybody compares the game that they're playing to other games constantly. And one of the biggest compares was, the ability to host your own lobbies, create your own community games. So however you want to do that. PUBG introduced that a long time ago. They gave people the ability to start up their own lobbies and play their own games. But Ring of Elysium didn't have that at the time. And that was a big push by the community as a whole to the devs saying, hey, we need this. We want to help grow the game. Asking on their Twitter feed, asking in their forums, sending direct messages to the game developers. And I will tell you, trying to send a direct message to a game developer like Tencent, you don't get a lot of responses back.
Good luck.
Just don't.
I was going to ask if you ever had a conversation with anyone that actually developed Ring of Elysium. You did.
Yeah, well, I had a conversation. Well, I can't say the developers. I had a conversation with a group that ran a tournament with them, and they were. So I was in those conversations, but I wasn't talking to the devs directly at any point. No.
Okay, I got you. Well, there was a point in time with Ring of Elysium. Do you remember? Like someone sponsored, like Wacky Jackie started doing videos for it because like Doritos or Amazon or someone like this. Wasn't there some company that was trying to put off a Ring of Elysium tournament? Is that a thing, or am I just?
No, Amazon did do a tournament through. It was a collaboration. I believe it was with Amazon Tencent that put on a tournament that I did play in, and I played with Shroud and Justin and those guys.
Right, like there was a point in time where it was like it almost seemed like it had a chance, right, to kind of get over that hump kind of thing, right?
It absolutely did. And unfortunately, they didn't listen to the community. They listened to I don't know what, because it seemed like every time they put out something that the community didn't like, they made more of it. So I don't know if they're just like trolling their community or whatever, but it was like every time we said, "Why are you doing this? Why'd you take away this map? Or why are you introducing this? Because there's so many other things to fix." They were doing something somewhere totally different. So
Right.
I don't know.
Sounds like the PUBG devs.
Hey, who owns PUBG? Never mind.
Oh, right, exactly. Oh, right. Sorry, foolish me. Yeah, it's I've ranted at absolute nauseum about if a game like PUBG or Ring of Elysium, and I'm sure you're in agreement, were put into proper hands, the sky is the absolute limit, right? With a game like that, with something that's a little bit more realistic feeling and just the way the gunplay feels and just that kind of thing. I think there's endless potential with a game like PUBG if it were to go into the right hands. But
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
just
I mean, think about the games that have had the longest longevity that are out there. Diablo, right? All those, all World of Warcraft. I mean, come on, that
Counter-Strike,
game,
yeah.
those games have been around forever. And the main difference is they have a continual recurring revenue stream of people that are actually playing the game via subscription. And all these other new games are starting to rely on microtransactions, and it seems like all their focus is on developing something else that they can put in the store and sell.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's losing the plot, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. I mean, I'm not. Actually, I was going to say I'm not going to get into a PUBG thing, but the next question actually has to do with PUBG. So you're welcome, everybody. What was it you were looking for when you wanted to leave PUBG?
Something that there was a group of competitive players and people that want to have fun at the same time. And honestly, I'm a introverted extrovert. I don't know if that how that makes sense, but I like to be around people that I find that I have common interest in, that I can hold conversations with about anything, and nobody gets offended
Yeah.
about stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's just gamers together are pretty much like that for the most part. Everybody gets along with everybody because we're out here gaming and playing with people, and we're not judging each other by how we live, where we live, who we are, what we look like, what language we speak, who our family. We're not judging each other like that. And I enjoy that part of life tremendously. So finding a group of people, and you can find a group of people in a smaller community of a game like Ring of Elysium, much easier than you're going to find people in PUBG. It's just, you try to get on a forum and make friends. You might have a few people and they're like, "Oh yeah, hey, we'll play," but you're going to have a bunch of people that just like call you names for no reason, just because I don't know, because they have a keyboard.
I know when you guys first, because you guys were the first group of people I had met to play PUBG with. Then you guys were the people that I played PUBG with. But then one by one, you guys all went away, and I was left there all by my lonesome, still, deathly in love with the game. And I had to do a lot of digging through forums and things like GLL and Faceit and Reddit and all these kind of things. And like you said, 99. If I spoke with 100 different people, 99 of them were just jerks, just not fun. Thought they were the best player in the world. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
if you died first, then it's every name you could possibly think of. And it's just that horrible online gaming experience that everyone is very well aware of. And then I did get fortunate enough to find my buddy Spicy Thunder, shout out Spicy, along the way, and me and him developed an amazing relationship, and became really good friends and all that kind of stuff. But I might have actually played games with 100 different people before I found Spicy. So it's like if I didn't have that deep love for PUBG at that time, then I definitely would have just been like, man, this is not worth playing. Right? And just because sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I totally agree with you. It got to that point where everybody that I played with did the same. It just everybody started moving to different things.
Yeah, for sure. And it's do you think with like, do you think there's validity in BRs as esports?
Some.
Yeah. It's like it'll never be a League of Legends or Counter-Strike kind of thing, but there is a market for it, maybe.
I think there's a market for BRs that um, the randomness of the game is enough to make it so it's an even playing field on both sides, and it comes down to skill. Games that you can better yourself by how much you spend or buy things in a store, or you can do some. It's hard to make a level playing field when you don't have a virtual level playing field, when you have a map that is very, very different all across the board. It's difficult for everybody to agree that that's fair, because some people get drops in a certain area that have more loot, and some places you get drops and you don't have a lot of loot. So trying to balance that playing field is difficult. I think even as for the devs, I can't blame that for them. They're trying to make something fun, and it turns out that people want to play it competitively, but that's a difficult decision.
It is for sure. So we'll switch off of the run to Ring of Elysium and that whole conversation. So when I first met you, you were branded as That Dad Games. Can you talk about what that branding was? Like, where did That Dad Games? I mean, I can probably assume where That Dad Games came from, but why was that what you initially went with?
Tell you, if you want to hear the short story of how that name actually came about, I'll tell it.
Please.
Me and my wife were out to dinner one night at one of her favorite restaurants, and we had just about, I think it maybe was like 2 months, a month before then, found out that I was going to be a father. And it was a very cool time, but I was also still kind of really starting to get into to streaming, so to speak. My son's birthday is in June, so you got to think, we found out he was there, he was going to be coming, and what have you. But we're standing out to dinner one night, and I'm having a drink, and my wife's standing there, she's having a water, and we're talking, and we get on the subject of playing games and streaming and stuff, and she's awesome because she talks to me about the stuff, and she asks questions, and she is interested in what I'm talking about. And I said, hey, I was thinking about changing my name and actually, trying to put together a schedule that works, because we're getting ready to be parents and what have you, trying to be more responsible. You got to grow up when you have a kid. It just it happens.
Right.
Not that I wasn't grown up before then, but either way, I was like, and I had been thinking about this for a couple of days. I said, what do you think about That Dad Games? I was like, it fits. I'm like, I'm going to be a dad. And it was just kind of a silly quip at the time. And then I started getting more serious about it. And I went home that night and I started doing my searches, looking to see if the name was taken, social media, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't. I was like, whoa, what? How did I get this? Because any content creator will know that you want to come up with a name. It is hard to find that name you want open on every platform that you need it to be open to create your accounts. It's difficult. So that's where that name came from, is just because I was getting ready to be a father, and I was just, hey, I'm going to be a dad.
And like, how easy for you to appeal to a certain type of viewer, right? Like, I think, which is it, like, I think from the people that I've met from your channel, like, there are definitely other fathers in your community that have kind of been like you're just instantly relatable without them even knowing who you are, right?
That, honestly, that wasn't the point of the thing. It just kind of happened that way. If you want to see the other side of kind of why I picked that name was, I grew up in the 90s, the .com boom and everything, and I sit in between two generations, a generation who has trouble turning on a cell phone, and a generation who can run just complete circles around people on computers. And seeing somebody, I'm not a young buck, as so to speak, I'm not a little teenager that, has been around computers my whole life, playing video games and stuff like that. But I grew up playing video games, and it was more of a statement for me. Hey, That Dad Games, that's okay. It's cool that he's a father, he's a dad, he's a parent, he has a kid, he's a husband, and he plays video games, and it's okay for anybody else who's in that position as well to play video games and have fun. That was my idea.
And he's pretty
So,
damn
how
good at them
silly it
too.
was.
Pretty damn good at them too.
Try.
Try. Okay, so that's and that, I mean, like, knowing you as a person, that does, like, that Dad Games does fit who you are very, very well. Like, you just explained all the reasons, and they're super, super valid. So then, why the rebrand?
I again, this all goes back to when you first asked me questions about why did I, how did I learn to do the do all the stuff that's involved with streaming with this stuff is I'm constantly evolving things in my head, and then I put them to practice. I started wearing bow ties on stream one time, and I don't know why it went over so well, but it did, and it was in the whole midst of the Ring of Elysium stuff. Because I don't know if you remember, but I was playing PUBG sometimes, coming on with camo makeup.
Yeah,
I
no,
still
we
have
were playing together.
military like a military top uniform with patches on it and everything.
Yeah, I remember.
I had fun with that stuff, but I put on a bow tie, the first bow tie I ever had. Here, I'll show it to you. So this is the first bow tie I ever wore on stream, and if you notice, this is a clip-on bow tie. And if I wore that anytime today, anymore, people are going to ask or say, if they saw the clip-on, they would say, "That's, what are you doing? What's wrong?" Because I don't do clip-on bow ties anymore. This goes into a museum.
All right.
But I did that, and it just people said, "Well, where's your bow tie?" It was like, I don't know if it was I had a bunch of viewers during that period and they all remembered the bow tie, but it just became a thing and it stuck. And then after a while, it became part of the channel, and it just evolved. And I think that's the way a lot of content creator stuff actually goes, is a small thing turns into a bigger thing, and it just keeps snowballing and evolves into, well, I rebranded to BowTieAntics. I wanted to appeal to again to I guess a broader audience, and there's some things behind the bow tie thing, the dapper slogo, dapper slogo. What is a slogo? The dapper logo, the emotes and that kind of stuff. That was pushing towards the idea in my head was, I'm a dad playing games, but I'm also wearing bow ties. So how do I incorporate that? And the whole thing about wearing bow ties, dressing nice, the background behind that was, you can play video games, and look good doing it, and be dapper in all things is something that I wrote down. And if you look at the meaning behind that also means in friendships and how you treat other people, and being a very treating people with respect and being respectable yourself. And that was the idea behind that.
No, that's for sure. I think I remember you and I having a conversation at one point about there being value in not being just another streamer that has his sweatpants on, the same t-shirt he wore yesterday, and hasn't showered and just throws a hat on and that kind of thing. Like, there's something about putting forth a little bit of extra effort into not just your audio and your video, but there's the effort and putting into how you look as a person and just being more presentable. And it kind of, it kind of also gives you that mentality of like, okay, I'm going to work now. Like, it's time to get ready. It kind of psychs yourself up a little bit, is how I see it anyway. Like, I know when I do any of that and I throw my chains on and kind of do the whole thing, it's just like, okay, now I'm putting this on because now it's time to get to business, kind of thing, right? It's just making myself take a little bit more seriously, maybe.
Yeah. There's so many streamers these days. 3, 4, 5 years ago, there wasn't so many people streaming, and you could grow a channel and be a successful streamer if that's what your passion was, by playing well. You could play well. You can't just be a streamer these days and be good at a game unless you get in and with an organization and you play esports and you're on the competitive scene and on camera and things like that. But it's very hard for anybody to just start playing a game, be good at it, and grow a channel on Twitch. You have to have something else.
Do you think it is possible to grow? I mean, obviously anything is possible, but do you think there's your chances of growing a Twitch channel using just Twitch as your only platform for finding viewers, do you think that's a detriment to your brand or to your chances of growing?
Absolutely. I think it's your chances of growing in a time frame that's gonna make any sense before you've had to replace all of your equipment many times over. um, and it is very, very, very low trying to go that route anymore. It's just there's just way too many
Too
people.
many for sure. So when you want to touch on your peak, can you just, so everyone is aware, can you talk about do you remember what your highest average monthly viewership was?
My highest average monthly viewership, I want to say, was like on the Twitch analytics thing. I think it was like 62.5.
Okay, so
That was the average for
62.5.
the month.
And then for partner it's 75, right?
Correct.
So like you're almost at the tip kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like that's
You're-
a terrible choice in words.
Did you say that?
I did. That those words just came out of my mouth. But you were the end was in sight. I'm gonna say the end was in sight, but you could see the end, right? The light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing.
There wasn't an end. That's the thing. Oh, hitting that number, what that signifies for me wasn't like maybe it was a number goal, but it wasn't an end or
Yeah, end isn't the right word. End isn't the right word, but it's, you know, the potential to apply for partner was definitely within reach, we'll say.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to you're a new streamer, you've been streaming for 3 months, and your highest average was 2.2 viewers. Like 75 seems like a lifetime away. Like it's like, who are we kidding kind of thing, right? But when you're at 62.5, like you're starting to get a little bit serious. Did at your most serious of streaming, the thought of hitting partner must have been in your head, right?
Yeah, of course it was.
Like you pay attention to numbers enough to know that, okay, like there's potential that in the next, if the trajectory stays the same, there's potential that within the next half a year or whatever, I could be at least applying for Twitch partner. How much of that mentality went into what you started doing when you were at that peak? Or was it more so, if we get there, we get there?
When you start having, 70, 80, 90, 100 people watching your channel on, Thursday, Friday nights, and it dips down and goes up, dips down and goes up, and then you have lulls during the week. You start like in your head going back and forth. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? How can I make people have, or give, not make people, but have a better entertainment value on the channel? What I looked at was, are people having fun? Are people laughing? Are they interacting with me, like in Discord and other areas too? There's so many things that go through your head once you start, you get to that number. Obviously, if you get to that number, you're doing something to grow your channel. You're doing something correctly, because that doesn't just happen. That just doesn't.
Right.
It's not just something that, I'm gonna turn my computer on, play some, Halo, and here we go. We got 70 people. That doesn't happen.
Right.
But there's a lot of good things that start coming through your head, and there's also a lot of kind of scary stuff that happens.
Mm-hmm.
The people that think that getting the partnership on Twitch and getting those numbers, there is a lot of baggage that comes along with that, and not just from the, I'm excited, I get partner, I'm gonna make some money. That's fantastic. I tell you what, anybody who's a partner, it would agree with me that if you're getting, if you think that, getting a bunch of subs and on Twitch and having that revenue coming in is a a big monetary gain, it's not something that I was pushing for. Sub counts were sub counts. That's fine. That means people are supporting me. That's great. but I always turned around and reinvested in the channel.
Right.
But the thing is when you start getting into that realm of, oh my goodness, if I have to sign a partnership agreement, remember that's an agreement between you and a company.
Mm-hmm.
You have to abide by rules and regulations. You got to watch what you're doing, how you're doing it. There's just a lot of responsibility that comes along with it.
There is, for sure. Can you just maybe just touch on maybe one or two quick things on the negative side of what started rolling around in the old brain as you were starting to think about that kind of stuff?
Um, a time investment,
Mm-hmm.
um, expectations, what other people expect of you. How much you expect of yourself can be the worst thing. Um, Trying to adhere to what you've promised and stick to the schedule that you promised and not let any of the people down that you've been streaming to. Because for me, I don't know like everybody if it's like that's for everybody else, but the people that I have in my stream that I've gotten to know and all the people that come back, they become a part of who I am and how I wake up every day and think about, oh, I'm gonna talk to so and so about what we were talking about last night. And it becomes a normal thing for you every single day, and you don't want to let those people down in what you're doing. And that becomes a positive and a negative in your head, especially when you are getting ready to be a father and you have a wife and you got a lot of stuff going on. It can get pretty stressful.
Absolutely. Do you want to talk a little bit about at that same point in time how you were trying to balance streaming and real life? Because obviously that pressure is there to not miss a day of your schedule and put time in away from stream to try and improve things as much as you can. So can you try to talk a little bit about that balance that you had at that point in time?
Yeah. Pretty much that time, that whole transition, going from PUBG, starting streaming Ring of Elysium, and my viewership going up. I was streaming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday,
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week. Started at so it was 7:30. Then I moved it to 8, and I would stream till 2 a.m. 5 days a week.
Right.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot. And once some of those things started, it builds up pressure. It just does. Um, Once some of that started coming in, I had a epiphany, I guess, and realized that I need to sit down and work all this out. First step was I put together a new Google account, a Gmail account, and I went on. I created a calendar, and I sat down and went over my stuff that I had to do, work, every family stuff, that kind of stuff, and I threw all that stuff in the calendar, and then I tried to fit streaming into that. Um, I made a rough pass before that happened, outside of that calendar, where I tried to write down the days I was streaming and then fit everything else in. That crashed and burned in my face, and it wasn't good. So I had to fit that stuff around. And then I said, okay, well, I got a schedule. Okay, now I need to do all the graphic design for the schedule. So then I have to create all that, and I have to put that out on social media. And then I have to keep up with that schedule. And I don't have a paid assistant at that time, and neither do I now, to do all this stuff for me. So you have to do all this stuff. So you have to figure out, how are you going to publish all this stuff to the people that you're wanting to interact with. And then getting all the other stuff organized. You got to pay for graphics. You're going to make your graphics. Are you going to have somebody cut and edit your videos? You're going to make your videos. And there's so much to do. It was just a lot of little micromanaging yourself and coming up with a game plan that I did well with for a while.
You absolutely did, and things were going so well. At what point did it become unsustainable?
I got to this, I don't know, I got to this point where what I kind of warned folks. You asked me, what would be the one thing that I'd tell, new streamers to do, is I let streaming take over all my time. If I wasn't streaming, I was editing. If I wasn't editing, I was doing graphic design. If I wasn't doing graphic design, I was on social media creating posts or talking or interacting with other streamers. If I wasn't doing that, I was online looking and searching analytics. That takes up a lot of time. And when you work a full-time job plus you're streaming, you don't have any other time. I was for 6-7 months. I think I was sleeping 3 and 4 hours a night max. That was
Right.
it, weekends included. And I started having trouble, not physically, but more mentally, breaking from a cycle of I'm going to stream instead of go somewhere with my family, or I'm going to stream instead of hang out upstairs and watch a movie with my wife. I started focusing so much on being down here in my studio streaming that I was putting things that were much more important to me on the side, and that's what ultimately led me to have to take a lengthy break.
So at what point, like, how did you go about making that choice to take that lengthy break? Like, can you talk us through that, maybe just that the week leading up to you making that decision? You know what I mean? Like how did, like, because I know, knowing you fairly well, I know how deeply you care about your community and how deeply you enjoy streaming and how much you want to be successful and how hard you work on it. So how did that decision come to pass? Like, I know you just kind of weighed out the pros and cons and how things were going great and the negative side of things. How did that kind of leading up to your actual decision? Like, what was that like for you?
Hard. You start wrestling with it in your head. If you're the type of person like me where, you know, you keep a lot of things to yourself, and my wife will tell you that it was very hard to get me to be a little bit more open and talkative with her about stuff. I grew up in a different way or similar way depending on who you are. But I did a lot of things for myself, so I've always done that. And dealing with things like that, I dealt with myself as well. I got very closed off and had to think. And when I get to that kind of stuff in my life, I don't shut off, but I like to have a lot of a space. I have to have space. I've got to go somewhere where I can think and go over things, whether it's, literally like reading something that somebody else is talking about that's in a similar situation, or seeing other points of views of it without somebody asking me questions about it and talking to somebody about it. I work things out much easier. But that week was rough. I knew it was coming. I knew what I had to do. When you start when you start having conversations with the people that you love, and they're different, because it's you can tell that there's some tension, that there's something wrong there that's never been there before. You realize something's going on. So it wasn't hard for me to press the pause button. What was hard was trying to let go and actually take that break. The easiest part was not turning the stream on. The hardest part was me not getting on social media or Discord or any of those other things and keeping up with what was going on. That was tough. And
Right.
it was like, I had to play a disappearing act for a little while, and I had to do that for me and my family and my mental health.
Like, you had to cut it, it wasn't cut out some of it. You had to cut all of it out.
Yeah, I
Right.
did.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I mean, that was definitely noticeable for sure, because I know, yeah, you were super active on everything. And then it was it was radio silence, which I was curious, very curious about, as to like the reasoning behind that, and that just makes absolute perfect sense. So you make that decision, the hard choice. You step away. You're working on not even opening Discord and checking who's in your channel talking about what, like, kind of just keeping away from it completely. How was life after you made that decision? Like, life after streaming, what was that like?
I missed streaming, and I was still playing video games when I had time at night and things like that, when after family went to sleep or when I had free time, what have you. But I'll tell you, it was a weird feeling of, where did all this free time come from?
I
It
can
was it
just
was
imagine.
it's like it was like when I finished college and I didn't have to go to class 4 nights a week and all day on a Saturday. It
Right.
was like, I have all this extra time. What am I gonna do with myself? Um, but at that time was quickly filled up with honeydew lists and movies and all kinds of stuff. It was amazing.
Yeah,
It was
no,
like
of
all
course, yeah.
this stuff just flowed in. I took down this dam that was there and everything came in. So it was a good feeling. And I realized a lot of things that I had missed out on and was missing out on. And namely, I have a son.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I missed out on too much. But there's definitely that feeling of if I was not streaming, what else would I have been there for? But there's that.
For sure. So now you're starting to make a little bit of a comeback. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It's a very hesitant, yeah. What's the plan? Like, okay, so you went through all this, the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, the highs, the lows, all this kind of thing. What's the new goal? Like, what's the plan right now for BowTieAntics?
The plan. Right now, the plan is to make sure that I've got every other checkbox marked as good to go in my life, including work, personal health, family, spending time with my kid, and doing something outside of video games and streaming to learn something new or to do something. Make sure that my majority of my focus is doing that stuff, and then with the time that's left over, which to be honest, once you get yourself organized and get yourself in a good place to where you have, and I don't know, it's just you get up in the morning, you got energy, you're happy, you're smiling, you're eating correctly, and what have you. You get to a point where you have a bunch of time that's actually there, that you're not sitting worrying about stuff, you're not tired, you're getting things done faster. So I'm starting to get some time back from a longer break this time, that I'm gonna start trying to fill in with streaming. But I'm just gonna be having fun. I just want to have fun. I want to play some games. I'm not gonna, streaming could be a career for somebody. I don't know if it's gonna be me. Anything can happen, like we said, but my kid, my family, and life outside of video games does come first to me. And for somebody else who doesn't have those things in their life, obviously it's going to be different. You're going to have different focuses and so forth. But I love my family, and I love my family more than I love video games.
Hell
So
yeah.
I'm gonna play video games though, and I'm gonna play competitively. I'm gonna sit and tweak my mouse as much as I want to, and try to figure out all the little angles and edges I can gain an advantage on without cheating. We do not cheat in video games, people. Turn those hacks off. Well, hacks, people, Jesus, campers. But yeah, I'll you can call it a comeback,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna be streaming again.
It's
It's
just
just
nice.
not gonna be 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the time to do that.
For sure. Well, it's very, very nice to see you. I'm very happy to get to have a conversation with you again. Absolutely. Brent, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
No questions.
No questions.
I'm sorry I beat the tongue off myself
I'm sorry.
here. when we were
I
talking.
hogged all of the airtime today.
No, it was a pleasure, guys.
Honestly, Bowtie,
I
thank
had
you so
a good
much.
time.
I really, really did want to have this conversation. I think you're a fantastic streamer, a fantastic father, a fantastic husband. You're an amazing person, and you're someone that when I started streaming and wanted to play PUBG and wanted to take it seriously and wanted to play competitively and join tournaments and find a group of like-minded people, you welcome me with open arms, and I'm very, very happy I met you. It's an absolute pleasure. So thank you for having this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be the end of our conversation with BowTieAntics. If you guys enjoyed this conversation at all, make sure to pop by his channel. Make sure to say hi. Tell him how dapper he looks. Tell him how much you like those bow ties. My friend, thank you so much. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure. Hopefully we'll talk again very, very soon. Guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. and we'll see you guys next week. Peace
All
out.
right. Bye.